What the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. Doesn't that statement sound a little too audacious? How can simply believing be enough to get what you want? If it were that easy, everyone would be millionaires, perfectly happy and completely fulfilled. But perhaps that's exactly why it causes such unease, because it exposes a truth most are afraid to confront, that quitting is always a choice, never a predetermined condition. How many times have you been just one step away from something significant, yet still chose to give up? Sometimes it wasn't even due to weakness, but because you convinced yourself the effort was no longer worthwhile, or that perhaps fate had a different path for you. It's fascinating how humans possess an almost innate tendency to quit right when they're on the cusp of triumph. This is what Napoleon Hill referred to as the invisible line between failure and victory. It's a demarcation so subtle that hardly anyone recognizes when they're standing on it. Most simply withdraw, convinced it's the end, when in truth it was merely the final trial before a major breakthrough. A study from the University of Scranton reveals that more than 90% of individuals abandon their goals before reaching them. And do you know the reason? It's not a deficit of talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's emotional fatigue, that debilitating mental weariness that leads you to doubt yourself, quietly whispering that nothing will ever change, and that perhaps it's wiser to simply stop and accept life as it is. It's precisely at this juncture that success evaluates whether you genuinely deserve it. Napoleon Hill experienced this deeply. Before he penned Think and Grow Rich, he was a young reporter, broke, without standing, and plagued by uncertainty. His aspiration was straightforward, to uncover what made certain individuals exceptionally successful. Upon meeting Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest and most influential figures of his era, Hill was presented with an offer that bordered on madness: to commit 20 years of his life to interviewing the world's most powerful people without receiving even 1 cent in compensation. Who would agree to such an undertaking? Almost no one. Yet Hill grasped that this invitation was a summons to something far grander. In the initial years, he endured hunger, confronted the disdain of editors and friends, and was repeatedly told he was squandering his life. There were evenings he went to sleep on an empty stomach, questioning if continuing was truly worth it, and it was precisely during these times, in his moments of deepest anguish, that he penned the most inspiring sections of his entire Odyssey. He realized the secret lay not in overcoming external circumstances, but in triumphing over his own impulse to surrender. Reflect for a moment. How often have you felt this same struggle? The sheer exhaustion of striving for something that appears to be making no headway. The crushing weight of trying, and still seeing no tangible results. How many times has your mind screamed at you to just quit? And how many times did you actually heed that call? This is precisely where most people falter, not because they lack the capacity to continue, but because they interpret discomfort as a definitive sign that something has gone awry. When, in truth, discomfort is often the clearest indication that a breakthrough is imminent. Success is not a linear path. It's an erratic ascent, fraught with loose rocks and sheer cliffs. And each instance you contemplate quitting, what's genuinely occurring is that the subsequent level requires a more robust version of yourself. It's as if life itself is challenging you. Prove you're ready. And the trial is straightforward. Will you persist or will you concede? Abraham Lincoln stands as a quintessential illustration of this. Prior to becoming the President of the United States, he suffered business failures, lost multiple elections, battled depression, and endured years of ridicule. Most individuals would have undoubtedly capitulated, yet Lincoln persevered. He held an unwavering conviction that his purpose transcended his setbacks. And that crucial decision to press forward when all others would have ceased not only reshaped his own existence, but altered the trajectory of an entire nation. And here lies a truth that few possess the courage to confront. Triumph never materializes for those who surrender prematurely. It belongs to those who resolve to press on, even when motivation wanes, when the body aches with fatigue, and when fear appears to eclipse faith. It is in this precise instant that what Hill termed the character of success is forged, an unseen power that emerges from the sheer refusal to quit. Modern neuroscience corroborates this insight. When you persevere even in exhaustion, your brain initiates the formation of new neural pathways, linking effort and discomfort with learning and mastery. In essence, each time you opt to continue, you are literally reprogramming your brain to tolerate more, innovate more, and conquer more. Persistence isn't merely a matter of willpower, it's profound brain conditioning. So the next time you feel the urge to give up, remember this: the majority of individuals who fail do so, not because they didn't exert enough effort, but because they ceased their efforts a mere one step shy of victory. Perhaps that single step is the very thing that divides the life you currently possess from the life you genuinely desire. It isn't about fortune, it's about unwavering resolve. It's about continuing to advance even when the entire world seems intent on pushing you backward. Ultimately, success is not reserved for the most intelligent or the most powerful. It belongs to those who possess the quiet fortitude to persist even when no one else is observing. The majority of people abandon their endeavors not due to inherent weakness, but because they never distinctly understood their reason for fighting. The reality is, without a sufficiently compelling purpose, every challenge can feel like an insurmountable end. Human beings can withstand almost anything when they grasp the underlying reason for their suffering. However, when that core motivation is lost, even the slightest impediment becomes unbearable. This is why Napoleon Hill asserted that the bedrock of success is not merely persistence, but profound clarity of purpose. For it is this clarity that transmutes effort into fuel and pain into a guiding compass. Hill unearthed this truth by studying the most accomplished men of his era. When he interviewed Thomas Edison, for instance, he recognized that Edison wasn't merely striving to invent a light bulb, he was endeavoring to illuminate the entire world. Henry Ford's ambition wasn't simply to manufacture automobiles, it was to render transportation accessible to everyone. And Andrew Carnegie's desire wasn't solely to amass wealth, it was to demonstrate that success could be achieved through steadfast principles and mindset. Every one of these individuals shared a common thread, a purpose that extended far beyond their personal ego. And this is precisely why they never ceased in the face of setbacks. For those who contend solely for monetary gain often surrender when prosperity is delayed. But those who champion something they truly believe in persist, even in the absence of any guarantees. How often have you found yourself questioning why you persist with something that consistently seems to fall short? Or how many mornings have you awakened without a clear understanding of why you do what you do? This is precisely where most individuals become adrift. They exist by reacting to circumstances rather than progressing with a clearly defined purpose. They labor to settle bills. They live to mitigate problems. Yet they seldom pause to inquire, why am I doing any of this? This void of meaning is what saps the vitality of countless people. And regardless of how diligently they work, they will invariably feel unfulfilled because they aren't advancing toward anything that genuinely ignites their spirit. Research conducted by the University of California indicates that individuals possessing a strong sense of purpose demonstrate up to 60% greater resilience when confronted with adversity and report elevated levels of satisfaction, mental well-being, and even extended longevity. This phenomenon occurs because purpose effectively reconfigures one's focus. It enables the mind to perceive effort not as an onerous burden, but as an integral component of a truly rewarding journey. When your underlying motivation is clear, exhaustion merely transforms into a poignant reminder of the inherent value of what you are striving to achieve. Napoleon Hill experienced this with profound intensity. During the years he dedicated to his magnum opus, he endured hunger, failure, and public humiliation. Many dismissed him as insane for believing it was possible to distill the principles of success into a single volume. He could have easily abandoned his quest, but what sustained him was his unwavering purpose. He firmly believed that if he could demonstrate to the world that success stemmed not from mere chance, but from a specific mindset, he would irrevocably alter the destinies of millions. And that is precisely what transpired. His mission ultimately proved more formidable than his fears. And perhaps this is precisely what might be absent from your life today. A motivation powerful enough to compel you to rise when all others have lost faith, to keep you moving forward even when tangible results are yet to manifest. Without a defined purpose, every critique feels deeply wounding. Every setback becomes profoundly discouraging. But when purpose is present, even suffering acquires meaning. It is purpose that allows you to gaze upon chaos and discern opportunities for learning. It is purpose that transforms every stumble into an essential component of the ascent. Many mistakenly believe that purpose is some ethereal or unattainable concept, yet it can reside within the most fundamental aspects of life. At times, it's simply the yearning to provide a better life for your family. On other occasions, it's the drive to prove your own capabilities to yourself. Or perhaps it's the ambition to inspire others through your unique narrative. The crucial element is that it must be something that truly moves you, something that awakens you each morning with an eagerness to act, even when no one else is observing. Try an exercise in writing. Take a blank sheet of paper and respond with complete honesty to these questions. What genuinely inspires me? What deeply disturbs me? What would I be utterly unable to tolerate leaving incomplete if my life were to conclude tomorrow? Do not formulate your answers based on what others might anticipate. Delve deep within yourself. Record what truly holds significance for you. Because once that core motivation becomes undeniable, everything shifts. Excuses lose their grip, fear recedes, and discipline manifests effortlessly. Hill often remarked that an individual without purpose resembles a ship adrift without a rudder. It may still drift, but it will be carried wherever the prevailing winds dictate. And the wind, by its very nature, is capricious. It can shift and blow from every conceivable direction. Those lacking a clear sense of direction inevitably find themselves ensnared in a perpetual loop of beginning and halting, attempting and conceding. However, individuals anchored by a strong purpose, even when the currents of life drastically change, continue to navigate steadfastly. For they possess an unshakable knowledge of their ultimate destination. And what is most intriguing is that once you genuinely align with your purpose, life itself appears to begin conspiring in your favor. Opportunities manifest, the right individuals emerge, and even obstacles acquire a fresh significance. This is because a mind singularly focused on a powerful objective perceives possibilities where it previously only saw insurmountable barriers. It's not sorcery, it is an awakened perception. So when exhaustion inevitably sets in, and it will when the world feels overwhelmingly vast, always recall one essential truth. Purpose is the fundamental differentiator between those who persist until the very end and those who halt midway. It's what keeps you going when everything around you screams for you to give up. And it's what transforms ordinary people into timeless examples. Purpose is what gives meaning to the struggle and turns the journey into a legacy. Nothing is more challenging than continuing to believe in yourself when the entire world doubts you. People's suspicious glances, ironic comments, opinions disguised as advice, all of it weighs heavily, and over time it silently begins to erode the confidence of those who dare to dream big. Napoleon Hill knew this very well. During the years he wrote "Think and Grow Rich," he was ridiculed countless times. They called him a fool for talking about prosperity in the midst of the Great Depression, when millions of people were unemployed and desperate. They said his ideas were absurd, that success was nothing more than luck or privilege. But Hill did not back down. He understood that people mock what they don't comprehend, and that the doubts of others are often merely a reflection of the limitations of those who lacked the courage to try. And perhaps you too have experienced this. That urge to share a project, a dream, an idea, and receive only skeptical glances in return. Or to hear phrases like, "That's too difficult," "You're dreaming too big," "Better not to risk it." Most people don't realize it, but this kind of behavior is an unconscious form of self-protection. They project onto you the fear they feel of failing, and what's worse is that the closer these people are, the stronger the impact of those words. Friends, family, colleagues, all can unintentionally become the voice trying to steer you off your path. Hill called this the invisible force of public opinion. And he discovered that those who truly win are the ones who learn to silence the external noise to listen to their own inner voice. This is what kept him steadfast when no one believed in his work. And it wasn't just a matter of ego. It was a matter of purpose. He believed that success was a right for everyone, not a privilege for a select few. And to prove it, he faced criticism, rejections, and humiliations. Albert Einstein went through something similar. Before becoming one of the greatest names in science, he was labeled incapable by his teachers. They said he would never be someone relevant. When he presented his revolutionary ideas about time and space, the scientists of the era ridiculed him. But Einstein did not bow. He knew that the judgment of others didn't define truth. It merely reflected the limits of their perception. The same happens with anyone who tries to break patterns. Those accustomed to mediocrity feel threatened by greatness. Studies in behavioral psychology show that the fear of social rejection is one of the main factors preventing people from acting. This is why so many projects die before they even begin. A person has the idea, the desire, the capability, but lacks the courage to endure judgment. It's as if we seek approval even before living our own truth. The human brain, programmed to seek belonging, reacts to criticism as if it were a physical threat. The heart races, the body tries to protect itself, and instinct says, "Stop." But that is precisely where the secret of those who triumph lies. They don't flee from rejection. They transform it into fuel. Napoleon Hill used to say that most people are so influenced by the opinions of others that they lack the courage to form their own opinion. And that is why few achieve the extraordinary. Because the extraordinary demands a type of courage not taught in schools. The courage to continue in silence when everyone else shouts that you are wrong. This is the mark of visionaries. Hill lived long enough to see his ideas, once scorned, change the lives of millions. But this only happened because he did not allow the fear of ridicule to be louder than the sound of his conviction. Think about how many brilliant ideas the world lost because someone gave up too soon. How many books weren't written? How many businesses weren't born? How many songs were never heard because someone believed in the criticism of others more than in their own intuition? It's frightening but true. Most people prefer to live an average accepted life rather than a grand criticized one, and it is precisely there that winners separate themselves from the complacent. Most people confuse persistence with stubbornness. They believe that insisting means never changing, never retreating, never altering the path. But the truth is that success requires a different kind of persistence, one with a firm purpose but a flexible mind. Napoleon Hill used to say that victory belongs to those with clarity of destination, but the humility to redraw the route as many times as necessary, because life never follows the plan you imagined. It changes, turns, breaks, disorganizes everything. And whoever doesn't adapt gets left behind. To be persistent is not to keep hitting the same wall, hoping that one day it will crumble. It's realizing when the wall won't give way and seeking another method to cross it, perhaps climbing, perhaps going around, perhaps building a ladder. This is what differentiates the intelligently persistent from the blindly stubborn. One fights for an objective, the other fights merely to prove they are right. And this difference is what defines who grows and who wears out. Dwight Eisenhower, general and former president of the United States, used to say that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Because he understood that the battlefield changes every minute. The strategy that worked yesterday could be a disaster tomorrow. And life is not very different from that. Whoever insists on repeating the same attitudes, the same methods, the same excuses, expecting different results, is condemned to frustration. Hill realized this when he faced the greatest resistance of his career. During the years he was trying to publish his discoveries about the principles of success, the world was going through the Great Depression. It was a time when talking about wealth and prosperity seemed like a provocation. Editors rejected him, the public criticized him, and society simply wasn't ready to hear what he had to say. He could have given up, or worse, he could have continued insisting on the same discourse, the same format, expecting a different outcome. But Hill chose to adapt. He changed the language, restructured the examples, waited for the right moment. And when the world was prepared, he launched Think and Grow Rich. If he had remained stuck to the original plan, the book would never have existed. This ability to adjust is what science calls cognitive flexibility, and it is directly linked to success. Studies by the American Psychological Association show that people who develop this skill have higher levels of personal achievement, emotional balance, and professional performance. They don't cling to what worked in the past because they understand that the world is in constant flux. While the inflexible complain about changes, the flexible use them as a springboard. And perhaps this is precisely where many go astray. Some pride themselves on never changing for anything, as if that were a virtue. But rigidity that appears as strength is, in reality, disguised fragility, because what does not bend, breaks. All of nature proves this. The river overcomes the rock not by force but by constancy and the ability to flow around. The tree that resists the wind breaks, but the one that bends survives the storm. The same applies to life. Hill understood that purpose is the North Star, but the path is malleable. You can change your route, adjust your strategy, reinvent yourself as many times as necessary. The error lies in confusing giving up with adapting. Giving up is abandoning your purpose. Adapting is changing your method to continue towards it. It's the difference between those who succumb to change and those who dance with it. In personal life, the same holds true. How many times have you clung to an old way of thinking, a belief, a strategy that no longer served you? How many times have you remained stuck in your comfort zone because changing seemed too risky? But the greatest risk is precisely not changing. Adaptation is what allows you to continue growing when everything around you transforms. Hill used to say that success is a ladder you don't climb with your hands in your pockets, and that ladder changes shape all the time. Sometimes the steps are firm, sometimes slippery. Sometimes they seem to disappear completely. But it's in uncertainty that flexibility shows its value. It's when you learn to recalculate, to adjust your stride, to find a new way to ascend. Because the journey isn't about resisting change, but about learning to use it. Life will never conform to your plans, and that's why plans need to conform to life. The path that seems safest today might be the one that traps you. And that unexpected detour might be exactly what will take you further. The secret is to keep your focus on the destination, not the route. When purpose is clear, change doesn't frighten, it guides. Napoleon Hill became a symbol of overcoming not just by believing in the power of the mind, but by having lived what he taught. He fell, he erred, he needed to restart countless times, but he never stopped adjusting his stride. And this is the lesson success leaves for those who seek it. There is no linear victory. There is continuous adaptation. Time rewards those who know how to change without losing their essence. Because in the end, the world doesn't belong to those who start with enthusiasm, but to those who continue, even when the enthusiasm fades. To those who accept that the path changes, but the purpose remains. To those who understand that to persist is not to resist the new, but to transform every change into a new way forward. This is what makes someone reach where few others do. Not by never falling, but by having learned to rebuild themselves every time life changed the plan. Success has never been about luck, talent, or pure opportunity. Instead, it's about the unwavering decision to persist, even when every reason seems to be telling you to quit. It's this silent strength, born from a clear purpose and the flexibility to adapt to change, that transforms ordinary individuals into inspiring examples of resilience and achievement. Every single time you choose to keep going, even when you're exhausted, even when you're scared, you are actively shaping your own greatness, and it's this very decision, repeated day after day, that forges the true winner. Now the next video appearing on your screen will help you climb another step on your evolutionary journey to become 1% better than you are right now. Thank you for being with me up to this point, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.